What up, pervert? You know what time it is? It's time for hobbies. Time for hobbies and friends.
Yeah, hell
I'm here
yeah.
with my friend Dag, as always.
Yeah,
Dag,
what's
how are
going
you?
on? I'm doing all right. I actually I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good.
Yeah, good. He says.
Yeah.
What's
How
got
about
you feeling good?
going to the getting down to the Indy 500 and seeing a bunch of
Oh
goofballs
yeah,
and hanging out hanging out with the boys. It's a nice time. Nice time.
yeah. I was really trying to get out there and I couldn't coordinate.
Yeah, it's difficult. I tried to find our good buddy Ryan, but he was just in the other side of a facility that's about the biggest facility in the entire world. So we didn't
Yeah,
weren't able to work that out around 300,000 other people. But we had
yeah,
a good time. Didn't he?
yeah.
Got the least amount of sunburn imaginable.
That's good because you're basically just sitting in a wide open parking lot. So
Yes. Yeah.
I can imagine it's difficult to avoid. Yeah, it does look incredible. I even since I was a kid, before I was really into cars, I kind of wanted to go because my grandma used to always tell me they lived in Milwaukee and then later Chicago. And my grandpa worked for GE,
Hmm.
and so he would get corporate tickets or
Right.
whatever, and they would go every year. And my grandma was just like, "Well, you gotta see it. It's insane." And she's
Yeah.
by no means a big car person either. The weirdest thing she would always say is it's like she would always be like, "Oh, it's like so convenient. You can just bring a styrofoam cooler and leave it when you're done." And I'm like, that's like what she would bring up like every time
Yeah.
she would tell me. She'd tell me about the noise and then leaving a styrofoam cooler. And I'm like, why? Why?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what
that's
is it? What is pertinent about that? Also
so
seems just kind of gross.
our buddy from that we went to Bradley with was like giving Brooks the list of things to bring. He's just like, "Yeah, do you guys have like a cooler you don't care about?"
It's
But
insane. Like
I don't know. I didn't see a lot of that. I'm sure the trash was ungodly, but most
yeah,
of what people had, they like took out. The people behind us did have a styrofoam cooler, and they did put all their trash in it. And they actually had quite a fair amount of people working and coming by and picking shit up. So they were like cleaning it up as they went. I think that they know how to handle the debauchery after 107 times doing it. They kind of have a sense of
yeah.
how to handle
Yeah, she
200,000
definitely told
assholes.
me. She definitely told me this like it was some kind of like insider knowledge,
Yeah.
like that was like her trying to impart. And I'm like, no, I like kind of now I'm like, I think no, that's just you have the general '70s vibe of like it's like like there's like I think a classic Reddit post or something where someone's just like in Mad Men they like always leave their trash like on the blanket and then just walk away when they're done. When they have like picnic scenes and they're like were the '60s and '70s really like that? And it's like, yes, people did just throw trash everywhere back then. So like that, it seemed
Yeah.
less of like a insider knowledge and more just like my grandma just admitting to more sins of the '70s. She's a big environmentalist for the most part. She loves birding, but she always brings up how bummed she is she can't use DDT anymore because it was quote so effective. So sometimes she'll just like let things like that slip. She's done a decent job of coming into the 21st century for an 85-year-old lady, but she'll still let the
uh,
mask slip a bit into
yeah.
60s mentality. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it did sound like fun. I am bummed. I'm gonna have to try and do a better job coordinating next year.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
it's got the bug in me. I'm like, IndyCar is in Detroit this weekend racing street
yeah.
course, and then NASCAR is in Gateway, which is on the Illinois side of St. Louis. But that's 5 hours. I mean, they're both about 4 or 5 hours. They're just like out of reach
Well,
and
the
cost.
Belle Isle one, I believe, is free. The one in Detroit, it's free this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, and it's
So,
not on
and
Belle
Belle
Isle.
Isle
It's
is pretty
it's a
cool.
it's a
Oh,
it's a
it's
road.
not.
Yeah, they're doing a road street circuit this year. So, the
Well, it was
interesting
always a
thing,
street circuit on Belle Isle. Are you sure
yeah,
it's not on Belle
but it's
Isle?
actually in downtown, so you can like see
Oh, got you.
demonic GM towers.
What are you talking about? The Ren Center
Feel
rules.
feel that you can feel their demonic energy.
I love the Ren-Sen. It's like a beautiful piece of modernist architecture.
Yeah,
And
it's
you get
not
to
as
ride
cool
the
as
you can ride the elevator on the outside. It's wild.
it's not as cool as the People Mover, or that,
The people move.
or
That's the
the
worst part.
oh no, the People Mover is funny as hell.
The people mover is fucking horrible. Last time I
I
rode the people
challenge.
mover, you couldn't even put a quarter in because the machine was just like so full of quarters. It was like spitting out.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
and so you just walked it.
because how many people are wanting to be moved. No, I would pay more than a quarter to be moved by something right now. I do contest I do contest that it moves people. It doesn't seem to move that many people, but I don't know. The riverfront is
If
kind of
you're
is
not
fun and cool.
familiar, it's like it's basically so it was like built for a World's Fair or something similar.
All the best things
And
were.
it's basically just like a Disney World like monorail type thing. But like people in Detroit do tend to try to claim it's a semblance of public transportation, and it is
Man.
not even as good. It doesn't even handle it as well as Disney World does. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's actually pretty
it's
efficient to get
funny.
in and out of there and be separated from your money.
Yeah, it also doesn't really take you anywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's not very useful.
No.
It is kind of good for if like say you go to the Tigers game and then you parked at the Greektown Casino because the Greektown Casino is free to park in if you go and put a dollar in the slot machine.
Yeah, and if
And
that tip worked
so
out for you, send us $1.
yeah, exactly. That's my hot tip. Don't bring the styrofoam cooler to the Indy 500. Park at the Greektown Casino if you're going to a Lions game, a Tigers game. I think you can do it for the Red Wings and Pistons. I think that they play like right across the street. I haven't seen the new arena, so I don't really know where it is.
Yeah.
But I think you can probably do the same. And you can save yourself. You can avoid having to get your parking validated at the Kid Rock, Rock and Roll Grill, or whatever the fuck it is there. Yeah. But but yeah, I would like to go to that race like at some point. It does sound like fun. Like you were saying, I forgot that my friend gave me a Peacock login, and I forgot that like all the Indy cars on there. And
Oh yeah,
I do think IndyCar is a little more exciting to watch than F1, and it's kind of a similar thing.
The requirements of their strategy with refueling and with like only the two different tires.
And they like change the wings and stuff too in mid race.
They do a lot of adjustment inside of the car and also talk about it a lot. So it is fun in the sense that you on the broadcast too, like they very much talk about what's being adjusted and what's happening more than you get in F1, which is good. If you don't like really know what's going on, they'll kind of like explain it to you like you're five, which is great. But yeah, also just like the racing is very good. Like the people that were in contention of the 500 like kept wrecking, and just like changing the complexion of the race. And we were, at least I don't know if everybody else was, but I was very bummed that they kept wrecking on the front straight and in like turns 1 and 2 because it wasn't happening for us in turn 3. And then Pato O'Ward tried to send it into turn 3, made a big swoop under Ericsson. Ericsson gave him no room. Pato put it in the dirt at low 200s, dipping tires in the dirt, and he ate a lot of the wall really hard right in front of us. So it was cool. It was like a horrible, huge incident, but it was like right in front of our faces, and you just experienced that in slow motion. So I got like 2 pictures of him wrecking, and then I forget who else coming after. Maybe it was Rosenquist that got caught up in it.
I can't remember. I don't know any of their names.
Yeah, for sure. But
I just watch the cars go around.
But yeah, it's really fun. Good stuff. If you do have Peacock, it's all backed up on there, and you can just plow through it. But yeah, good time. What'd you get up to over the past week or so?
Well, I've been pretty busy with work, but I was trying to take some, just relaxing time. Didn't really happen because Memorial Day weekend it was raining a lot. Was planning on renting a boat, but then so I ended up going to a bowling tournament instead. it was a little it was I didn't do so well, and I was bowling with a couple people I didn't really know, so it was, it was whatever. But
Hmm.
I did start running again, which I guess is sort of a hobby. I know, like, I'm kind of like on the fence about exercise as a hobby. It's kind of weird to me. Like, so I used to run in school, and I tried to get back into it a couple times since, and I haven't really had anything to shoot for when I did it. And so I kind of decided a couple weeks ago that I was like gonna finally run a marathon because I've always kind of wanted to. And I feel like that's kind of a hobby. Like, if you're plotting out kind of more of a goal like that, I'm more willing to like accept it. But like, it is weird to me when, like, like people on the dating apps or whatever would be like, oh, like, I like to like work out and travel. It's like, dude, that's like describing that you like to brush your teeth and take showers. Like,
I,
that's just something
I
like
actually do like those
everyone
things.
needs to do. Yeah, I mean, but it's, it's not really a
Showering
hobby.
is probably my
It's
main
kind of just like a
hobby.
necessity. It's like a necessity of human existence. It's like maintaining mental and physical hygiene.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah, I
so
mean,
yeah,
some
like
level of working out
I'm on the
is
fence.
somewhat hygienic, but it's also just a
Yeah,
me.
like, I think, if you're doing stuff like playing softball and you want to lift weights, like, that was when I was lifting weights, it was because I was playing softball and wanted to be able to hit a home run, and I achieved that goal. And so,
Toxic as fuck.
yeah, yeah, true, yeah, true. So, I'm on the fence. I know there's like ways of kind of setting those goals, like within just working out, but like, I don't know. And you can feel free to roast me. This is just one man's opinion. I am ultimately one of many hobby perverts, and I'm not going to tell you what should make you happy or what
People
you should
always
call your hobby.
people always yell at the workout guy who has an OnlyFans because he's always trying to, like, one of the things those guys like to do is like also pretend like they're philosophers. Um,
Right. Yeah. Like, I
and
think,
yeah, I don't, we're not going to do that.
no, like, I think what's just dangerous about it, what I will say with a bit of certainty, is that I think what's dangerous about when you get into working out but without kind of more, I guess, measurable goals, I'd say. Like, I have a goal of running a marathon, or I had a goal before of like, I want to get strong enough that I hit a home run and things like that. Like, I think that those are fine, but I see a lot of people who get really into working out, and it's kind of just an expression of like body dysmorphia or insecurity about their body in general. And they'll set goals to like lose a number, like kind of, you know, arbitrary amount of
Hmm.
weight. And I'm not saying there's anything
You
wrong with
realize
wanting
you're
to
just
lose
like
weight.
talking about my master's thesis, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with like wanting to lose weight or, feel better physically. Like,
Yeah.
those are great things. But like, I will say that, and this happens in other hobbies and stuff. Like, if you kind of like don't set a real goal for yourself, you're just never going to be happy with the results. And if you never get into a point where you could be like, oh, I achieved something, or like, I got to a point that I could look back and see how far I got and feel happy about that, and then feel empowered to move forward into a different goal. And I do feel like a lot of people I know who kind of like get into like working out without those kinds of ideas backing them up, they either quit, like, which I know is what, a lot of your thesis was about,
Hmm.
or I think they become like just very unhappy with themselves, and then they get obsessive, and I
Yeah.
don't think that's good for you. Like, personally, I'm sure you can set those goals and then move on to other goals, but like, you have to have it with like that kind of mindset that like, I'm not trying to like make myself more perfect, or I'm not trying to like achieve this like nebulous idea of physical beauty, or
Hmm.
this place that I'll finally feel happy about myself. Because then you won't ever,
Yeah.
like, I can assure you, you will never feel that. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
and
I
that's a
think you
bummer.
can
Like,
have like I think you can have a qualitative piece, but like a lot of what you're doing should be, I mean, at least somewhat measurable. But it's also like when it comes to goals, like you need to have like a bunch of different ones, and that's not just to say a bunch of lofty goals, but it's like you have long term goals. I want to run a marathon. You have short term goals. I want to run a 7 minute mile. You have also like process goals. Like I want to work on my form. I want to extend my stride. You know, things like that. So it's like there's all these different areas that you work on, and that's like
mhm.
almost anything you're going to enjoy. I mean, I think that's why like doing hobbies is fun, because like there's always some part of like figuring out technique. Like
Mhm.
that's when you can tell somebody's really hooked on a hobby, when they're like, oh, I'm trying to paint this thing, but I want to try to do it this other way. I need to figure out
Mhm.
the Bob Ross fan technique. Like once you try to figure out the fan technique, like you're in. Like you have goals that
Right.
you're into chasing.
And that's like not to, I'm not trying to poke fun at or make people with those kinds of psychological issues feel bad about them. Like that's, I understand that you know, those are difficult things to deal with. But like I'm trying to make a point, I guess, more that like I even see, you know, you see people who play guitar where they do similar things where it's like, oh, like I want to be able to shred, you know, and it's like, well, what the fuck does that mean, man? Like, you know, like you have to set, it's like we were talking about with Colin. It's like, okay, well, like maybe your goals should be like, I would like to feel comfortable at a blues jam, or I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
feel comfortable messaging people on Facebook to say I'd like to play with you, or you know, like those are kind of things that you know will lead to you reifying your abilities and finding new joy in what you're doing. And if you just kind of like look for I want to be a famous guitar player or something nebulous like that, you're going to quit or you're going to be deeply unhappy the entire time.
Yeah.
Like, even if you
Yeah.
become, say you even become a famous musician or whatever, like
I won't.
those kind of guys are like famously miserable, you know. Like
That
the
is
guys
true.
just have this
That
kind of
is
like deep
true.
resentment towards the process, you know, because
Bonamassa won't tell you anything about his politics, but he's on Twitter doing the Elon. That's interesting to all these like
yeah.
conservative talking points and like mask mandates. But no, I mean,
But yeah,
but for a lot of people, like if you're getting into something new, you're honestly like your first goal, like especially if you're like just starting to work out, is like do it once a week, do it twice a week, just like do it a couple
yeah.
times, and like just doing it at first is the first thing, and then like making
Hmm.
it part of your habit, um and having a habit
Yes,
to just kind
definitely.
of keep doing that.
I mean, exercise is especially the hardest thing to keep. Like, I mean,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
you have
doing
to,
something
if you go
fun.
somewhere, you need to take your you need to take your gym clothes, and like eliminate
Yeah, yeah,
any way that you could sit down on the couch and completely
yeah.
zone out
I
and
mean, in
avoid
my
doing
case, you
anything.
know, a lot of it was I felt like I was drinking too much, and it was impacting, you know, not necessarily my relationship or anything, but it was just like it was just sending me down. I wasn't active. My brain was turning to mush. My body was turning to mush, and so
As
I was
listeners
like,
have
you
know
know,
well,
what's that?
said as listeners know well.
Yeah. Yes, yes, you've heard my mind turn to mush for a few weeks now. Anyways, um, you know, and so part of like you're saying, building the process in this case was, you know, I got like I can start to achieve that goal because I'm like, well, I have something I need to wake up at 9 o'clock for because
Right.
especially starting about now, you know, I did it the other day because I wasn't my allergies were bothering me yesterday, and I kind of didn't feel like doing it until about noon. But it was also the day that the Nike app said I was supposed to run 5 miles for the first time, which I haven't run 5 miles
Mhm. They
probably
have
10 years.
they have their own like marathon
A little
plan.
training program, yeah. A
Okay.
little. I have 4 weeks to play with before the marathon. I think I'm going to try and run, so I'm kind of playing around with it. But it said to run 5 miles, and I was like, okay, well, I'll at least try to run and walk 5 miles. And it was just so fucking hot that
Hmm.
like I ran and walked a little bit of 3 miles. still had an under 30-minute time. I want to, I feel like that's pretty good for someone getting back. I mean, it's obviously, I mean, I've run a 5K in less than 20 minutes in my past.
Who are you
So
trying
just,
to prove this to?
yeah. What?
Who are you trying to prove this to?
Myself.
Okay.
Anyways, but no, I was happy with that. But it was so hot, that like there was no way I was gonna make it 5 miles.
Yeah.
It was a struggle to get through three, and so I was like, it kind of helped me with this other goal where it's like, okay, well, like you need to be ready to go at 9 o'clock, like
Right.
so
Yeah.
you can go out, run, get
Yeah.
showered by 10 o'clock, and then start working. And
Yeah.
it's like,
And
and
that's
the
part
days
of what
that
all
that's
these
worked out,
things
I
do.
have felt really good. I have
These
felt
things
really
are all
good,
part of like routine. And even
Yeah.
if it's something that you like, if it's something that you like and it's in your routine, well, guess what? Like you're gonna do it because it's like part of your routine. But
Yeah.
the important thing is that if it tells you to do 5 miles and you do 3 miles or you just skip it altogether, you have to just be like, okay, well, I didn't do that today. I'll just do that tomorrow or just pick up the next one or whatever. Like if you don't,
Right. Like I knew,
if it's a 3 day
I knew
weekend,
going in.
3 day
Yeah.
weekend and you like don't do your hobby, you don't have to be mad about that because like you need rest. That's like the reason they
Yeah.
give us like barely any 3 day weekends is because we actually do need rest. We're like, whether you've been doing much or not, like if you haven't been doing anything, your body doesn't make energy for you because you don't need it. And if
Yeah.
you have been doing a bunch of stuff, whether it's working physically or working on the computer, like the past few years have just like blown your body up and your brain up, and we're all fucking tired and full of cortisol and stressed out. So it's like find a rest, but like you just do the things the next time you're able, and you schedule and plan time to do them. And I'm really bad about that, and that's something that I'm working on too. Is just like okay, this is
Yeah.
time that I need to like work on my things.
Yeah. Sometimes, like, especially with running, I will tend to give myself like more slack. I'll be like, okay, well, you didn't feel like doing it, so don't do it. And and I knew going in to that when it said run 5 miles, I was like, probably not. It's probably not even my best physical interest to run the full 5 miles right now.
No.
I probably run the first week. I think you're only supposed to really run about 7 miles by the time, you've gone from basically the couch. Not like I'm like a totally inactive person, but
And the couch to
but
5K thing is pretty good.
yeah. But so, I was like, okay, like go into it knowing that I have, 2-3 weeks to get to that 5 miles. But don't go into it being like, I don't want to do this, so I'm gonna run a mile and a half. Like, and so I did. I really did want, especially like I said, it was fucking hot. There was a gigantic hill in front of me. And I was like, it was like I said, a mile and a half, and I'm like, I could just stop. Like, and I didn't, and I feel better for it. And I feel better about the fact that when I did finally stop, I was like, okay, well, you went through a place and you still got to about where I still got to my goal, more or less. There was a realistic goal. And I know, but next time I'm out, I learned stuff from it. Next time I'm going to be like, I got to make it to 4 next week. I got to make it to 5 by the 3rd week, and then be
I think
just taking off.
The summer that I was really like, I was going out and just going on hour-long runs. The reason I was able to keep building up was I was just like but at the point where I was starting to hit a wall, I would like look at my watch, and I just had a watch that just had like a timer on it. It didn't have anything. It was actually like a watch I had like when I was a kid. And it would just be like, okay, I've gone for 25 minutes. That's not enough. I want to get to 30. And then if I got to 30, I'd be like, I think I can get to 35. And that ended up actually being like a great challenge. And that's the great trick of like, when I talk about like, when I think about like services and apps or just anything in life that's really good at getting people to do tedious things, like the best thing you can think of is World of Warcraft. Like World of Warcraft, the way that all of the missions are set up, the way that getting gear and everything works out, it's like, well, I could go to bed, but I could also go and mine the last 2 things for this mission. And while I'm there, I can collect these minerals that I need to sell so I can do this other thing. And then I need to run this dungeon. And if I run that dungeon, I can get my like T7 gear or whatever. Like it continues to keep you immersed and wrapped up, and you're not like thinking about things. So like when I ran with like one of the older Garmin like GPS watches, which was like a decade ago, but it was
Yeah.
like one of those big ass fuckers. It was like your
Yeah.
heart rate's this, and you've gone this elevation, and you've done this, and this is your rate, and this is this. It was like data overload. It's like I don't need
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need like a
Well, I
spotter
will
on the
say,
headphones with me being like, all right, man, you need to do this or you need to do that. And I know there's good stuff with like keeping in like a heart rate range that they can
yeah.
do. But like basically it's like you only need as much information as you do to like get the workout done, unless you're doing something very specific, which I'm not.
I know when my heart is exploding, but
Mm-hmm.
I will say, okay, so the two things that I think have been slightly different this time. First one is I run with the Ringo dog, who's a border collie, and he's unstoppable. And so honestly, he drags me the first mile, and then I'm in the stride. So hopefully at the marathon, they let me have him run me about 3 miles before I take him off, because he's kind of like, he's pulling the glider. He's like the plane. He's like the 747 that launches the space shuttle or whatever. So that's been helpful because I'll just have him and he's keep going. So I'm like, well, I'll keep going. The dog's going. He's tiny. But then I'm still kind of on the fence with this. I don't use it for all the runs that I do, but the Nike app has like a guy who will talk to you during the runs.
Like he just like tells you to keep going, or
he tells you all sorts of stuff. Like, I mean, he's like a coach. So I was doing like interval training, and that was kind of more of like coach talk. Like, all right, like, keep pushing. And then like at the end, they were like, oh, guess what? We're going to do an extra one. And I was, and I did the extra one and stuff. Yeah, and it felt good. And, but like, yeah, then sometimes I cut him out on a couple of the ones because some of the like more just like run this distance runs, he's like, he'll be going on about like metaphysical bullshit about like, there's one where he's like, oh, like, what about if everybody in the world could take a run, man? Like, think about what a peaceful place the world would be.
Is it the Australian guy from the Headspace app? Because I actually like that
No, he's not Australian.
Have you heard that guy?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No, I haven't. But I mean, it's funny because like I do kind of feel myself like being like, okay, well, like just keep running until he comes on, and then I listen to him, and that motherfucker won't stop talking, and then by the time he's done talking, he's like, oh, by the way, you just did like 5 minutes of this workout, and it's like you only got 15 more minutes now, and I'm like, oh man, I was like running, and I was so pissed off listening to this douchebag talk to me that like I just totally forgot that I
really do wonder what the market is for like sometimes when you listen to those like meditation apps, they're like, like imagine a whispering stream. You're at the edge of the stream.
Oh yeah, he does it all the time.
And a dragonfly wanders away. Let go of all your pain and troubles. Forget your friends who don't text you back. Like, it's just like, it's like we could, like, I know I could write those. I want to because they're fun.
Well, yeah, the guy will be like, think about like the best run you've ever had. I'm like, man, dude, as soon as I'm done. Yeah, well, that too. I mean, like, obviously, I do remember a couple runs like from my school days, but I'm like, dude, man, I hate to break it to you, man, but like the second I'm done running, like that's washed from my fucking brain. Yeah. like, I mean, I like it well enough, and I'm enjoying myself.
I think you should start journaling about running.
No, I've never been a journaler regardless. I don't. Apparently I need to have head material for when the fake coach is talking to me. So
it's an interview question you weren't preprepared for. Just like, what is my greatest running weakness? I haven't.
I was kind of almost like, oh man, maybe it's not too late. I can hit stop on this one and download a different one. Maybe I'll know the answer. Like, obviously, it's supposed to like get you so like you spend less time like sitting there thinking. Because I was thinking about this.
That works.
I was thinking about this last night. I was thinking about this last night, dude. I was like, man, I guess it didn't really hit me until last night, and I was thinking I had just been running 30 minutes for that 3 miles or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to have to run for that marathon. I'm going to have to run for like 4.5 hours straight, probably. That's like a long car ride to me. I get bored on car rides that long. Yep. I'm like, dude, I'm going to just run and then, like think, and
It
I'm like,
took
what
less.
do I would have
It
to
took
think.
less time
I
than
want to come
that for
with
us
things
to
to
drive to
think about.
Indianapolis. It took less time for us to drive to Indianapolis and stop at a Culver's.
I'm gonna have to write down like a million things to think about before I get out there, like just
Yeah.
so I could stay sane. I might lose my mind.
Listen, are you gonna
Maybe
listen? Are you
I.
gonna listen to a book? Do people do
That's
that?
kind of what I was thinking. That's
Yeah,
kind of what I was thinking
that's
about
the
doing.
best idea that I have.
I'm like, I might have to just like put on podcasts or something when I'm out there because like that's the only way it's not gonna feel like 90 years. I mean, I was like seriously like, oh, I did not think about that part. Was like, because I was like, I'm like looking at the training plan and it's like, in 3 weeks from the first week, so we'll say in about a month and a half where I'll be, I have to run for an hour straight, and it's like I'm like thinking about that. I'm like, man, dude, I'm gonna have to like do make sure I do that at a time. It does, like that's getting to the point that's so long that's like gonna start conflicting with things, like and I'm like, because I always consider myself a distance runner, and then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, man, I never really ran. I mean, I've run with a group of people for like 45 minutes or so, but like all my races I've ever run, like I said, I'm basically done with them in 20 minutes. Like so. Like, I was running more or less full out, like, and it was just over. And I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, dude, this is like, I'm about to have to run for like a car trip. If someone invited me on, I would probably pass on half the time. Like,
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
no, man, I'm not
I think
driving
that's
4
the
or 5
beauty of
hours.
that's the beauty of soccer is that like at soccer practice we would like run 3 miles before practice, and then you basically just run the entire practice. But you
Yeah,
don't you hate the part where you have to run 3 miles in 20 minutes, but then like the rest of the running you don't really notice because you're just like running after a ball. It's
yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
It's way stupid.
You're evaluating stuff. Your brain is stimulated. That's always been the hard part about running to me, is that it like that's why I switched in my mid 20s to riding a bike, because like the scenery changes faster. So
Well, I mean, it's also
my
just
mind
like
is more
you
my
could
mind
also
is more
swerve. You
stimulated.
can't like I mean, I guess unless you
Right? Yeah.
started doing like running parkour, just
And you
like
can stretch and stuff. Like you can go handlebars for a second. You can kind of move around. You can switch it up. Like running is just like the same fucking motion and the same scenery for like ever. And yeah, so yeah, last night I was like thinking about like, man, I'm gonna really have to like get ready for that part and come. I'm like you're saying, like you suggesting, like do you listen to a book or something? I'm like, I might have to do. I might throw on Moby Dick or something. Throw on a mystery. Maybe
yeah.
throw a little Agatha Christie in there. So I'm like, I'm wrapping the mystery up by the time I'm done with this race. You know,
The Blood Meridian
maybe a little
audiobook is really
Dirk,
good.
maybe a little Dirk Pitt on there. Sahara.
I don't know, man.
You don't know Dirk Pitt? Really?
No, I'm advocating for Blood Meridian. The guy who does the voices is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's just like
Yeah. Well, let me know.
he's just
Let's
like,
get
oh,
some opinions.
you old cuss, I'm gonna kill you, you piece of shit, son bitch. And like the judge rippled in the sunlight. He was naked and bald. He's just like, yeah, hell yeah, this is good.
I wonder how the Lonesome Dove one is. I love the
I
Lonesome
don't know.
Dove.
I've been trying to do the
Maybe I'll
Gravity's
just
Rainbow
listen
one.
to I'll just listen to the movie.
Yeah, Gravity's Rainbow. It's like
Maybe just watch it.
all
I'll
the
just watch the
ridiculousness
movie.
is just like too much. It's like too much to hear just like some
Yeah.
guy like narrate like, and he put his throbbing penis into her, and she felt good, and it was warm, and you're like, you know what, man, I don't think I can listen to you read this to me.
I've never been. I mean, we used to listen to him a lot in the car when I was a kid, but I've never really liked the book on tape thing. I'd
I
rather
think
read it in my own voice.
yeah, it can be good.
I'm
It's
the
a little weird though.
Anza. Yeah, but yeah, if anyone has any ideas, let me know how you've dealt with the tedious boredom of running 26 point whatever miles it is.
3.
Um, the 3.
Yeah,
I
you're gonna have
obviously
to
gotta
get the
get the
fucking.
sticker.
Yeah, you're gonna put that
I'm
on
gonna
which
have to get the
car?
sticker. Yeah, I gotta get the sticker once if I do it.
Which car?
I don't know.
It's
Miata
funniest
feels
on the
like that's the one you
CRX.
got. That's true. It would be funny on the CRX because the CRX is where I stick the stupid stickers for sure.
Yeah.
But it would. Yeah, I mean, I almost bought the sticker when I bought the shoes. just so everybody knows I'm serious about it.
Oh boy. There so a few things that you've said actually are supported by at least what science was a decade ago. Like even so if you're like even if you're running on a treadmill and somebody sprays like lavender spray, I think people like
Mhm.
can like run harder and longer just by like being stimulated by smelling lavender. Um, so that's weird. And then the other one
Huh.
that you oh yeah, the other one is that related to all the autonomy stuff that I did with like my thesis, we actually do argue that based on data, like if you did start wearing like if you started wearing like a running shirt all the time, or like like such and such 5K, people will be like, oh, are you a runner? And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm a person who runs. And then you're like, I have an identity as a runner, and that's mirrored back to me by other people because I wear my stuff.
Yeah.
I put my badges on the wall and I see them when I come home, and I
Yeah, I
think,
want
oh,
to
that's
hide.
important to
I
me.
want to hide that. I want to hide that from most people.
Yeah. So
Like,
you
I would
so for
like to.
you, it's like
Yeah.
you come home and there's like 4 cars in your driveway that barely run, and you're like, I'm a car guy.
Yeah. Exactly.
And you go to the bowling
That's
alley and you're
that's.
covered in grease, and they're like, what have you been doing? You're like, I've been blowing up my own car.
uh. Yeah. So we'll have to try. I'm still on the fence. I might. Like when I was first starting, I was like, I'm not doing any of the events because, like, I especially don't want to do any of those dumbass like 5K to the breweries
You're
and
not
all
going to
that
turkey
stuff.
trot?
But I mean, that's the thing is, I'm fine. I might try to do a race or something. If somebody brings one up, I'll come do a shorter race, like if it just fits in my training.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, like obviously, I won't if it was like a 10K or something. I
Or
mean,
like
maybe I mean a
our
5K,
college
a
roommate
5K
was
I could
like
run
getting
at a
into
race
like
pace.
ultra marathon stuff back in the day. And he'd be like, "Hey,
Oh my
I'm
God,
gonna like
no.
go to Pekin and like run in the woods for like 3 hours, and if I don't come home, like send an ambulance." And we're just like, "If you don't come home, you don't come home. Like this is fucking your problem. Like if you die in the swamp in Pekin, like that's on you. Like that's got nothing to do with us. That you're trying to run
the
a
the
marathon in
ultra
the woods.
the ultra stuff, that's nuts.
That
Like
is,
my Stefan, Stefan BC, the weed
I think
lawyer.
so. Yeah.
Um, he's a long time weird Twitter guy. He's not really on Twitter very much anymore, I don't think, but we're still friends on Instagram. And I was asking him one time because he runs a lot, and I was like, "Oh, you ever do like the ultra stuff?" Because he does marathons pretty consistently, and
Mhm.
he's like, "Fuck no, dude, I'm not deranged." I'm like,
It's a crazy
is it really
thing.
that much more?
Well, I mean, you're basically at that point you're training your body to go into crisis. I think there are like
Well,
physicians
yeah,
that
it's like
like argue
it's
that you shouldn't even run a marathon because you like destroy your
yeah,
immune system.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if I will do another one after. I will
You're
probably
gonna get
continue to
addicted to
run,
it.
but I definitely do enjoy. I would probably enjoy more of a race that I could be more competitive in because I doubt I will ever be competitive in. And not to say I'm ever going to win anything, but
Yeah,
I'd rather at least still feel like I'm in the fast group or
yeah.
the faster
Well, see,
group.
that's where like mountain biking makes me envious when I see like that people are going on like all the rides and stuff people go on just always look really fun. Like you're doing a
Mhm.
big workout, but like you're having fun. Or like my buddy Sam is like posting like the races, and it's just like everyone's cheering for each other, and it's like not really
Yeah,
that. It's not really that competitive, but like you're in a park riding your bike on a course that's mapped out, and like you get to feel like you're doing something, and
yeah,
you're elevated beyond the average person riding around the neighborhood.
yeah.
That does seem like a cool place to get. I
I
don't
mean,
have capital
honestly,
for
I'm
that
gonna
right
keep
now,
doing
but
it because the dog likes to do it. So
yeah,
I'm
that's a good
enjoying the
reason.
time with the dog. It is fun to go take the dog running. That is something I guess if you want to talk about like how you want to, make yourself appear away. I do like being the guy who runs with the dog who runs forever. Like it would be cool to have the guy who like runs 10 miles with his dog every week.
Mhm.
Like that feels like a good mid 30s vibe.
Oh, I was thinking it sounded
Like,
like a 60-year-old retired army guy.
well, okay, maybe there's different slices of life
Oh,
that
okay,
you can
sure.
take a piece of at different times of your hunger. Oh,
Yeah, I've just been doing. I got a pull-up bar, and been
Yeah.
ripping pull-ups and push-ups, and I don't really want to run. I don't think because my knee isn't
No,
really
I
that
feel
happy about it.
yeah.
I might try to do like just get the rope out and just do that. That could
Yeah.
probably help my like hamstrings and knees, and also just like be enough cardio. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm like fine
I
to
might
get
try to
really
get
really
back into
hot,
yoga.
but like in my house. Yeah, I need to do that as well. And then I also
Yeah.
got I haven't had one of these in a long time. These like gyro balls for like your forearms and wrists. Um, so I'm just like, well, if I'm doing all this pull-ups and shit, then I can do this. Have you ever seen these or used these?
No.
So like the ball in the center spins, and then once you start like rolling your wrist, you basically just like supercharge the thing, but it creates resistance. So then you can like
You could just jack off, couldn't you?
well, I mean, it don't get that hard. But it's like it actually. I mean, it's like this is this other than this or like the rod where you like roll a weight up with like with your hands to like work your forearms. But I'm gonna try to work on this for a while and see if I can't do that, and then maybe I should probably do some yoga, get some stretching back in. I want to get
Yeah.
my disc golf form cleaned up. I want to be able to go and play a big disc golf weekend and not feel like I'm tired. But I also like want to
Yeah.
throw better
Yeah.
and harder, and like not even do I just want to throw further, but I just want to like if you want to throw straight, you have to be able to control your
Yeah.
core in such a way that you
Exactly.
control your follow through, or you can't throw straight. And that's the main reason that
Yeah.
beginners can't throw a disc golf disc straight is because they don't use their core and they just whip it around with their
Yeah.
arms like it's like a frisbee you get from the bank. And so I would really
Yeah,
like
that's
to
kind of
get
that was kind of yeah
better at
another
that.
goal. You speaking of that, yeah, it was just like if I bowled 4 or 5 games for a tournament, I was fucking drained, and it's
For
like,
sure.
man, I need to supplement this because yeah, like you're saying, it's the same thing. Like I start to get inaccurate shots or not throw it the way I want
Yes.
because I'm just not strong enough, and so yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
by about the
that's
14th hole, I just like throw one into a field, and I'm
yeah.
just like, I don't even fucking care. That's not even my problem right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough when you get to that point when you're just like, oh, like I'm not doing well, so I can't even get the endorphin rush to like make me feel less tired. And yeah, it's a tough scene when you're trying to do something physical like that. So, well, that's good. It sounds like as summer's hit, the hobby pervert boys have started, to
We're
like
back.
embrace
We'll never be down
hot
again.
boy, hot boy summer.
We'll
Yeah,
never be.
it's
Yeah. What is shit? What's?
getting
I mean,
we're
it's
getting fucking
Uncle.
yoked.
It's
It's hobby perverts yoked edition.
Hot Uncle Summer is here.
I got to be out there in the fucking cutoff jeans, shirtless,
Yeah.
waxing the GR, waxing the Miata,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
yeah,
if we're
like have a
being
leathery
perfectly
tan.
embarrassing, like a lot more of my shirts fit tight than I would care to admit. And I just got to get some of my favorite shirts back this summer. You know,
Yeah, I feel you on that one. Yeah, for sure. I
just
started drifting into the large and
I've been there for
34
a while.
waist. Yeah, 30. I am afraid I don't want to lose too much weight because I don't want to buy new pants.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think like I always like my ideal is just like fucking like original series Star Trek Shatner, just like looking like a fucking barrel, like. Just
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
want to
like
look. I just want to look like
60s dock worker.
yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just a fucking just a guy that like has some beer fat and can lift some stuff and work a hard day, but like not a big deal to him.
Exactly.
He's not going to the gym. Who the hell has time for that?
Exactly. Gyms are for hamsters.
Oh man.
You gotta use the world. The world is your gym, as my coach in the Nike app would say.
Oh, that's sick. Yeah. Yeah. I wish
He hasn't said it yet, but I'm sure he'll say something like that.
I wish I
So.
was more like that. Like my buddy
A
Red from back
himbo?
home.
Just the workout himbo?
No. Red is like a gamer, and I think also like a machinist. But when we go play disc golf, he'll be like, "That tree looks really good to climb," and he'll just like go climb the tree for the next 20 minutes, and we'll just like sit around and smoke hitters together and like watch Red climb a tree. But like he's just like, he has that in him that like gravity is oppressive to him. He like needs to overcome it. But it's great. Yeah. It's the if word of advice, if you are going to build a disc golf crew, you need one crazy ass white boy who loves to climb trees and will go into the river without question, because you're going to lose your disc. And if you have one crazy ass boy who will climb a tree or go into the river, you will never lose a disc. And you'll also never get really wet. The time that I went into the river, like 2 months ago, I went into the lake at Wildlife Prairie Park. I got tits deep. It was really funny. I mostly did it for the bit. But I didn't take my top off, and I should have popped my top. It was like barely 40 degrees. And I was pretty cold for like the next 2 hours. It was wet and cold and not playing well because I was also very tired. And Red would have done it better for me, and he would have actually got the disc. I did not get the disc. I just got really wet and cold. But there is a video of my fucking butt cheeks, so that's funny.
No, I don't need that. No, I don't need that one.
Suffer for the art. I've got a fat ass, actually, so.
Yeah. Well, on that note, why don't we cut to this delightful interview that you did earlier, and that I was unfortunately swamped with PRs instead of getting to do. So
we will be back with my good buddy Chris after this. Welcome back. Adam once again got lost in some sort of chaos. He's gone. We lost him. We have no idea where he is. But I am here with my good friend, my former college floor mate, my buddy Chris Pennant. Chris, hello, welcome. You're a busy man.
I guess you got to stay busy, especially when you're not working a 9 to 5. So you got to piece together bread as much as many different ways.
Yeah, I know how that goes. I've been rinsing and working on tie-dyes for the past couple hours. So great. What a great chore it is to make ends meet when the ends will never meet.
I swear, man.
Well, what's been going on, man? You've got this the CHGO Sky podcast. Do you have the Skyhook podcast still? You've been involved with roller derby. You've been on Jeopardy. Like you've been doing a lot of stuff. And if I don't see you at freelance wrestling or outside the liquor store, it seems like you're always doing something. What's been going on, man? How you been staying so busy?
Well, the Skyhook podcast is probably first and foremost a labor of love with myself and my co-host James K, the founder of the podcast. We both started doing shows or podcasts on the Sky, and he reached out to me around the outset of the pandemic when the league was figuring out that they were going to go down to Florida.
Sure.
And asked if I wanted to come on with him. And I said yes, pretty much because he seemed like an honest and earnest and stand-up guy, and he's been all that and more. Love doing the Skyhook, always loved doing it. This is our third season together, and it's been fantastic. The CHGO show, there's a lot that went into that, me getting on there, and a lot of controversy around it, and for good reasons. But it's been fun doing the show, especially with, again, the co-host. I'm always going to give respect to the people who work the shows with me, alongside me. And Stephen Garner has been fantastic. We had Katie Duffy on, who's an intern for the Sky, works at Stadium and NBC Sports, producing there. And they're going to have a lot more guests this summer. So the WNBA, once the summer hits, WNBA is one of my main focuses, along with the Windy City Rollers roller derby. It's really just about not wanting to stay inside. You come up as a kid and you want to go out.
Yeah.
If you're an extrovert and you just want to be outside the house when the weather gets nice. And even if I'm in transit from place to place, there's still the joy of the liminal spaces, whether it's being on the train or the bus or on the divvy bikes, just walking down a path. It's fantastic. So it's almost like, how could I not? How could I not be doing stuff? How could I not be playing softball? How could I not be doing all these things?
Yeah, well, that's great. So I mean, there are so many, and it's like, just contextually, it was like we'd always go to get lunch or dinner with you, and like you would know everybody on the way to and from, right, the dorm, and stop and chat with everybody, and almost always involved in sports in some regard, from trombone. You played trombone, right? In the band?
Yeah,
Playing trombone in the Bradley band. What was the group you guys had? I remember I ran sound for you guys on like the 24 Hours of Music once.
Oh yeah, that was so my guy from high school, Danny Lepatka. I've been playing with him for a while. We played in a ska band in high school, and then when he got to USC, he was branching out and he wanted to do some of that. But it was around that time that Kids These Days was getting big with Vic Mensa, and one of those guys was at UIC with him that played in that band. So he started the Chicago Beat Ensemble and had me out front, like, doing lyrics. And I am not a lyricist on the level of anybody's quality, but it was a lot of fun to do that with him, because he and so many of the people that we had in the band were such quality musicians.
Yeah.
It was just cool to be on stage with them, especially at my school at like 24 Hours of Music. I know that's
it's a wild thing. It's a wild thing.
But oh God, it's so much fun. Like,
it really is.
I'm a night owl anyway, and just to be up all night watching music or being up on stage, it was so dope. I miss that a lot.
Yeah.
Every spring I miss that.
I had I was running the soundboard for the like 4 or 5 a.m. to like 8 or 9 a.m. shift, which was just a wild experience, because it's like 6 a.m. and then like a praise band of like high school kids, and then like a 34-year-old guy who's reading scripture rolled out, and I was like the only person on the board, and I'm just like, what is happening? Like, this is wild to me. I'm not awake. And then like from there, it was like there was like a guy playing a banjo and a guy playing a guitar together. And on the soundboard, like coming right through the mics, like they sounded so good. Like I wish I was recording it. Like they were sounding killer. Like it was just such a wild strain. Like from that, and then like I think you guys might have been in the morning. I thought that I had you guys, but I might not have. It just is a blur. But it was just like such a wild and confusing 2 hours of sleep to go out in the middle of the campus and run a PA for a variety show that really was wild. Like
there was so much different stuff. Like I had that beat ensemble slot, and then my guy Chris would always do he called it flat billed hats, and that was just because all of us are wearing like baseball caps. And we would just play a bunch of covers.
Yeah.
And so he just brought on anybody who wanted to be on with us, pretty much. And as long as you were wearing that hat, you were in the group.
Did you pick up members from the crowd just already wearing hats?
I know we brought in my friend Ashley because she's a fantastic singer. When one year we were in the new gym, Markin.
Right.
The new gym, not the Markin gym. Because that one, there's still photos of that one up. And we sang, it was a Radiohead track. And she blew it away. But I was just like, oh shit, we're doing this. No, I know what it was. She sang A-Punk off that first Vampire Weekend album. And it was off the hook. Like, you just got to be you on campus and just fuck around for however long.
Yeah.
Overnight or when the sun was coming up,
I still think of I still think of the BSA, the Black Student Alliance did that like variety show, and I worked the audio for that one year. And one of the groups, I can't remember her name, she was in all my psychology classes too. But she and some of her friends did the like did this full dance. Trying to think of what the if it isn't love.
Oh, nice.
And have you seen that video, the new edition? If it isn't love video. They like
No,
it's
I
like
haven't.
it's like so it's like the I like know it by heart now because they like played it like 10 times in a row to practice. But I know the dance now from just like watching them and having to reset their CD 20 times. But it's like they have like a manager who isn't Jamie Foxx but looks like it's his cousin. And he's like, "Oh, you guys don't know how to do the dance and you're never going to like make it to the top." And so he like leaves the room in this warehouse they're renting, right? Like classic lofted New York warehouse, but he locks them in there and they're like, "What the hell? What's going on?" But then they have to take their 80s sweaters off and get down to their tank tops and look hot because they've got to start nailing these moves and they're like tripping and falling and getting the moves wrong and stuff. But whenever that song comes on, I like hear the little, it's in my head. Those, I mean, it's, I don't know if you're out there and you are still young, God bless you. Get involved in college radio and see if you can like work sound and theater and like weird stuff. Just like see some funny shit.
Oh, that's dead serious.
Yeah.
Getting out of class, not just doing that was the thing about Bradley. It seemed like everybody was doing something. Like
Yeah.
Nobody was just going to class and hiding out in their room.
Were you on the Edge? Were you on the radio?
Yeah. I had the Sunday night 7 to 9 slot.
Okay.
And
I just assumed that you did. I assumed there was no way you wouldn't.
I was like, I came on and I wanted to do radio, and it was just they just changed the radio TV major to
Sports?
multimedia.
Did they add sports communication by then?
No, they didn't add it before
Okay.
I graduated. So I was like right in between probably the times that I would have been really, really good and learning the stuff that I really wanted to. But I'm not to say that I didn't. There were a lot of great teachers that I had in the sound department. But the Bradley Student Radio, I picked up bands that I still listen to. I've gotten to see live just by I actually got to see one of them at First Ward on Milwaukee a couple weeks ago, and that was off of an album that I picked up at Open House at Bradley off of the student radio station.
Wow.
But yeah, that was an experience in itself. Like What's Good Radio started there, and that's been the name of my podcast ever since then that I've done on my own. Just like took it from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, that's such a fun thing to be able to do. I mean, especially in the sense that like it's. I mean, obviously the ability to try to do these things now is, you know, you can pick up a couple bits of equipment from the store and start trying to record things on your own. But like most of us didn't go to high schools where they would like have a radio station or teach you how to operate equipment or do things like that. Like when you're watching a movie, is even like a millennial onward and they're like, "Oh, the AV club." It's just like, what the fuck is that? Like nobody taught any of us how to operate equipment or like, you know, I mean, we had like an electronics class, but like I didn't take it. I never learned how any of that worked. It just is all nebulous stuff. And it's cool to be able to get to mess around with those things. But like, I mean, I think the thing that I always have appreciated, you know, like with you is that you just like you have been, you know, involved in so many different pursuits. Like you love staying busy. You're doing all these things, but but like I think the culmination of that, like the hat on that, is like that you made it through like the testing and made it through everything to like actually get on an episode of Jeopardy. Like that to me is just like what better culmination of somebody being like a Renaissance man of being in and around shit than than being on the show about knowing as much as you can about anything. I mean, how does that happen, or like what is that like to go through that process? Because I know people who have tested before, and actually through being on Twitter, you know, not to bring you down, but like there are like 6 or 7 people on Twitter I know who've been on Jeopardy. Just like people on Twitter love getting through.
It's wild. It was wild realizing that, like how many people had actually been on Jeopardy. And when you think about it, a show that's gone that long in its current form, that always has 3 people on every day, and 2 of those people are new. Yeah, of course there's going to have been thousands of people who have been on Jeopardy, you know? Like it runs every day for for a season.
But it's still an insanely small amount of people for how many people play Learned League, and how many people go to trivia, and how many people want to think that they know a lot of things. I mean, it's still like, I think a lot of people will be surprised at like actually getting through the test and getting on. But like, what was that?
Are you on Learned League? Is that what you're saying?
No.
You're saying you're on Learned League?
No. My buddy Mike, who I worked with, he would like send us all the questions every day and try to get us to like piggyback on it. So he had like his own bootleg, or he was taking down the questions and he was sending them to us and then seeing if we could get them right, you know. But like, I never had that, like, because I don't want to feel stupid first thing in the morning. You know what I mean? I don't know shit about French history. Like, when did they make beef Wellington? That's all I care about. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's none of my business, honestly. You know, I don't have a lot of the background, like literature, the Bible, ballet, all those things. But I mean, I can guess along and feel good in, you know, typical company. But there's just I think there's a level of like penetration knowledge that you just have to have so broadly to get there. Like, did you study up on that, or? Oh
no, I did. And that's why when people say, like, what, you know, how did you got on Jeopardy? I'm like, I lost Jeopardy is the important part to me. I lost Jeopardy. And I was very confident going in, because it had been something that I for sure wanted to do for years. Like, I was always a trivia person. As long as I can remember, me and my mom would watch game shows. We watched a lot of Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, really? Okay.
When I was young, that was where I
actually suck at Wheel of Fortune. First. I have no idea why.
It got tougher now. Like, dead ass. It got a lot tougher now.
I feel better about it once I like gave myself like the Carney brain understanding, which is just like, all of these are something that they can turn into marketing. So it's like, we're going to Hawaii. Like, we are buying leasing a brand new car. Like, everything is like something that they could get you to spend thousands of dollars on. Like, it's not just like, you know, oh, it's kitty corner to something. It's literally just like remortgaging your home. And you're like, oh, she was right there. I missed it.
Oh, man. Like, yeah, it's just like, what are the phrases now? And it's like, I think the phrases that I was used to then are, I don't know. I was watching one day at there's a Jewel up in like the West Loop.
Okay. Yep.
And a bunch of people would hang out there because there's a bar, and they would watch. It's like, oh, this is the Wheel of Fortune crowd. And I was like, oh, okay, sweet. I'm down with that. And I realized, just like, man, I am not as good as this as I used to be.
Yeah.
But Jeopardy, some of Jeopardy was just first round, initial Jeopardy, off of the stuff that I'd known. As I have a memory that's good for trivia. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a lot of retention.
Yep.
And I got lucky on a category that had to do with sports, that I got myself in the game and established a lead. And then the second round hit, and I'll tell you this, I had moved that weekend. We filmed on a Wednesday at the beginning of August, and the end of July was my day to move out. So I moved out into my new place like Sunday and into Sunday night. Monday, I woke up early because my roommate was moving in, and then I had to catch the flight out to Los Angeles that night.
Oh my God.
And it had an overnight layover in Las Vegas. There were no direct flights out to LA, and there was a Spirit flight too, so you know it's up.
You're not the biggest boy, but you're tall. That's a tough.
Yeah, no, you get it exactly.
And there's no way, even if you are not becoming sinful in Vegas, you do not rest there. The energy is.
I got lucky.
Yeah. The energy is zapping.
Because and I wasn't going to go into the city. That was the thing. I was like, well, am I going to sleep in the airport? And I got lucky because my friend had gotten married earlier last year, and a friend of his from back in the day, South Suburbs, had moved out to Las Vegas. So I hit him up. I was like, hey, can I stay over at your place at night and then go back to the airport in the morning? He's like, yeah. So he put me up in his house, which was great. I got to sleep in a bed, in a room, but it's still like sleeping in a room that's unfamiliar to you, and you want to make sure that you don't go like deep sleep and miss your alarm and miss the flight. And so I didn't really sleep that much while I was there. And then I got out to Los Angeles, and my guy who had gotten married lived in LA. So I was like, hey, can I post up on your couch? And that was cool too, but it was kind of the same thing. Just like couldn't really sleep, couldn't get the temperature right. And so when I got on the show, I was running on probably like 6 hours sleep over the last 3-4 days.
Yeah.
And when Double Jeopardy hit, I just hit a wall.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that probably would have come easier if I was really thinking about it, that I got in on, I just bricked.
Yeah.
And Martha, man, Martha Bath, she was killing. Martha was stone cold killing. She was about it.
Oh man.
And she had a great story too. So it was no shame losing to Martha. She was great. But I still tell people, they're like, you ever been on Jeopardy? I was like, I lost Jeopardy. That's what happened. I lost.
Yeah, you're so hard on yourself though, man. I mean, even getting there is just, it's people say they want to be sapiosexual. I was joking about this week, right? You know, it's like, you want to be sapiosexual. My man was on Jeopardy. That's like the swimsuit edition of having a hot mind, right? Try it.
People say it. I think I got on there because I was on the Chase. That was the first game show I got on.
Oh, okay.
My partner at the time, my partner at the time asked me some trivia question about the Cleveland Indians at that year, and I was like, no, I think it's this. Well, why'd you ask me that? That's interesting. And she told me, like, I applied for this game show, and I was like, oh, I know that show because they've been on Game Show Network,
mm-hmm.
and I didn't know that they were doing a new version for ABC. So she kind of suggested I put in, and I was like, hey, I put in, and I got on, and it was just, I thought it was lucky. I did really well on the test, and I had done the Jeopardy test for years, all through college.
Yeah.
Like, I would make sure to remember the date and do the online test and never got a call back. So I got on the Chase because pretty much they needed more people to film, and it was a rush process, like from end of July to August. And I got out there, and the two people on my team, fantastically smart, just so good. And it was, I think one of them had been on Jeopardy, and the other one got me in the Learned League. And I'm pretty sure just by the fact that it was like, oh yeah, because all the producers I talked to, they're like, oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah, he's great. And I'm pretty sure that's why I got on Jeopardy. But,
I mean, honestly, it's like, I mean, if you were a producer on some type of game show, you would just have a list of callbacks for people who had been on Jeopardy. And just be like, just call them in. I mean, there you go. Like, that's your booking. Getting into wrestling is like carnified my brain. Just like, who was that woman on Jeopardy last week? The one who said that thing wrong? Get her on here. She had that snafu. I'm gonna get the woman. You had a moment. You got to talk to, or at least tweet at Dale Jr. from your appearance. So you know what I mean? So it's like, even though you lost, you did get to have a little part of a viral moment with Dale Jr., which is pretty sick. There was a question about his driving, and I forget what the answer the person gave. You probably know though.
No, this was funny. Is I just pulled up because there's a Jeopardy archive that has the answers and the responses for every single one, every category.
Oh, so you could like download it and run it for your training.
And yeah, so a lot of what I did was go back and look at this archive and see what the questions were and see how many I was getting. And I came into it confident because I was doing really well on Double Jeopardy, which is why it was just so like, how did I lose out on this? There was a Western category that I got pretty well in, but if I had gotten a couple more, try not to go back and really think about this as much. But yeah, Martha's of a certain generation, you know? So the question came up, and it was like, this NASCAR Prince drove the number 8 car. And she said Richard Petty, which, if you don't watch NASCAR, but you know what you know, I get that answer.
Yeah, it's like Russian ballet, and everyone's just like, oh, what's his name? They're the one guy we know. It's like, you say the one name you know for the context. Like, that's why people pick those categories. They're like, I can say like Dale Earnhardt, but I may not know he has a son.
I mean, I was like, I knew that was, it was Dale Earnhardt. Part of me was so like punchy like giddy, I thought Dale Earnhardt Jr. and then I thought of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jr. the band, and I was like, no, because they tell you, do not say anything that could be construed as different. So, because otherwise you're going to get it wrong. I was like, oh, okay. We got to be cool. But I wanted to be like Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Yeah. They'd have to go into the producers who's just like, don't give him that. Don't give him that. There's not a third one yet. Obviously in car Twitter, the that started circling around where she got that wrong, and then Dale Jr. eventually replied, and then you got to hit him with the reply like, I got you, I got that right. So
I mean, it was funny just because like he caught wind of it and responded, because I've never been a huge NASCAR guy, but he seemed like he rolled with it well, and I was like, man, that's dope.
Yeah, I have, I mean, recently been watching it a lot more, and I actually am now at a point where I'm like, the average NASCAR race is more exciting than Formula One, especially in the sense that like the Red Bull car is going to be like Checo is 20 seconds out, but then by the end of the race, like Max is 40 seconds ahead of him. And it's just like, that's not actually really that interesting. But then like in NASCAR, they have yellow flag 10 times in the last 5 laps and have to just keep trying to restart and keep crashing each other. And then somebody who was in 20th ends up winning because he's the only guy whose car runs. It's just like, all right, well, this is great. Like this is way more fun to watch this happen.
For sure.
It's been, I mean, the races have been pretty fun. They've had some fist fights, the type of stuff you like to see. That's just entertaining. Like I said, getting into wrestling has just made me like realize like that it's like, if we're going to live in a world where like everything is this carny bullshit, then just like slop it on heavy. You know what I mean? It's like this, make a horseshoe sandwich out of it. The famous Illinois sandwich, if you're not familiar, is Texas toast.
Oh,
Texas toast, yeah. Covered in a protein, covered in French fries, covered in like a roux-based cheese. And it's just like, it's slop and it's heavy. But like, if you're going to eat a shitty hamburger and get that much sodium, you may as well be eating buffalo chicken tenders covered in fries and cheese. Like, at that point, just take it. Just take the fucking slop, man. Like, more things should just be WrestleMania. Like, when they're like, oh, basketball players shouldn't taunt each other. They should taunt each other a lot more. And they should be allowed to fight sometimes. Like, who gives a shit? Like, none of those punches hurt. They're just throwing wild haymakers. It doesn't matter, man. Like, what are we there to do? We're there to have fun. We're there to have fun. I'm not going to, like... People aren't going to cancel their Salesforce contract if Salesforce sponsors the All-Star game and there's a fight. Like, oh my God, the Facebook's brand is down this week. Like, no one's going to stop buying Elantras because of, I don't know. Like, what happens? I mean, if back when Blake jumped over that Elantra, like, what happens if he didn't make the dunk? Like, that's more risky than something actually bad.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, what if Blake trips on the car?
Like the body panel falls off, like takes the mirror off with his foot. Yeah, I don't know. All the narratives are just so funny anymore of just like the pearl clutching and things like that. Like, pimp your home run, man. Just pimp your home run. That's what we're all here for.
Like, you gotta go for it.
Yeah.
And like, talking about that, it's just like, the silly thing is there's still people who, like you said, are pearl clutching, like, oh, how could they possibly disrespect the game? That's the stupidest thing I've heard. Like, I know that you talk about wrestling, I think people talk about the wrestlers who've come up in a certain way or how they act behind the scenes or disrespecting the business. And I know wrestling is still insular. You have to you have to really come up and put in work.
Pay your dues.
Like, what did this business do to people? Like, how many wrestlers died young? Like,
oh my God,
so many. Do we really want
to
see these guys working when they're 65? We don't necessarily need that. We don't necessarily need cats to be working every day, 364 days a year.
No.
So,
yeah,
I thought about it and I was like, if cats want to go part time, let them go part time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
let them go part time and it'll be fine.
Like, it sucks sometimes to be like, oh man, the Roman Reigns isn't going to defend his belt every week. But it's also like, I also am like, good for that man to like, and Brock Lesnar for that matter, to be like just taking money off of the McMahon family and being like, I'll show up every other week. I'll walk out there and I'll make fun of some fans and I'll go home. And then like when you have the biggest show of the year, maybe I'll work. Maybe I'll fuck my back up then. But I also respect, like, there are people that go out and grind and work 100 and some matches a year on the indies to get that chance, you know? And that's the thing that sucks about WWE is that at this point, rather than like some guy that goes to Logan Auditorium or Irving Hall or an Indy or whatever and is in VFW halls getting dropped on their neck, like, they don't care. They don't care if you actually understand the business. They just want you to like, it's better for them to be like, oh, you were the third string linebacker at Maryland? You're an athlete. And it's just like, okay, but like people that do indie wrestling were like, you know, there's a guy who was like a Middle Tennessee linebacker. There was a guy who, you know, was, you know, Manders was like the walk-on fullback at Iowa. You know, it's just like, okay, right. Like these guys, they're like going around making towns jumping off of balconies. I don't know. It's just it's a silly thing, but it's capitalism, you know. It's the business, and I do understand that it is harder to make somebody charismatically interesting than it is to teach them how to do a takeover. But it's sad. It's sad. That's true. You hate to see it. That's true. You hate to see it. But anyway, I think that, you know, it's just like, that's, I mean, still very cool. I mean, I know you're hard on yourself about getting on Jeopardy and getting through, but I mean, I think that it's just such an interesting thing. And I think that like, through all these things, I mean, you've had such a great ability to like get in on production and, you know, have experience in that and, you know, find your way through all sorts of different ways to, you know, be somebody in media who is bringing things forward. What else are you doing kind of in your free time that's like bringing you joy and, you know, keeping you going?
Roller derby is something I got on in Peoria, and I've loved it since the first day I saw it at the Civic Center. Mm-hmm. And coaching has been really special. Yeah. Announcing is what I love doing. For that, I grew up wanting to be a baseball broadcaster and still do, but I will say that being involved with roller derby, even on the tough days, just it's weird now because I'm as older than some of the people that I'm coaching, still sometimes younger than some of the people I'm coaching. But being able to have that impact and know that what I'm saying is getting across and seeing it put into practice, and especially seeing just players develop and become more confident in these spaces mm-hmm. is really special. It is a very beautiful thing to see happen. And so that's always been great. Playing softball, I'm captaining our Chicago Media League softball team. Yeah. Shout out to Chirp, the Chicago Independent Radio Project. We're 2-0. First time I think since I've been on the team that we won our first 2 games in the season.
Oh, nice. Who'd you smash?
We played Scandal, which was an offshoot of the old Gapers Block team, and I think some players on the Tribune. Uh-huh. And then we just beat Block Club. Block Club got a team this year. Oh, okay. They're taking the first year lumps. You know, it's kind of like moving up from when team moves up from Division 2 to Division 1. Mm-hmm. But they've got some good players. They've got people who want to play.
One to keep an eye on.
Solid team.
One to keep an eye on. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Keep an eye out for Block Club.
They got that Patreon money. They're putting in a new facility.
They're gonna bring in like Ben Verlander or something like that. You know, something ridiculous.
Just bring in somebody from the Reader nobody ever knew could hit.
Dude, did you? Reader is year and again one of the best teams in the league. Like, I love reading the newspaper. That team is my nemesis.
That's really funny. Who do they have?
Well, it's not. As far as I know, it's not any of the main writing staff. Like Maya Dukmasova is not playing on the main reader.
No, Lior.
Kevin Warwick is there. Oh my God, that would be great. But no Ben Jarabsky.
Steve Bogira.
But it's my guy Jerry that was actually, he was doing roller derby with his partner for a while. He usually plays left field for them. Brianna Wellens on the reader team. She's really solid. Kevin Warwick's their captain, and he's like Earl Weaver. He's like the Earl Weaver of our league in terms of just like talking to people. He's like dead serious and you got to give us these calls. Warwick he's the guy that brings it out of you, you know? So either you can rise to meet them or you can get frustrated just because they're a solid team. They're well coached and they're disciplined. They play good defense.
Wow.
That's the toughest thing for any softball team.
Wow. Yeah, that is true. That is the routine out to double air is pretty easy to achieve in that type of competition. So
you get it.
That's what I always tell people about, like when it comes to like disc golf. People are like, oh, I can only throw like 200 feet, and I'm like, okay, but if you can throw 200 feet straight and do it a couple times, you're gonna beat a guy who can throw 400 feet but not straight. Like it doesn't really matter if you can do something really cool. It's just like you have to consistently be able to be very average. Like that is the level of competition that most of us live at. Like it's not about like being able to bowl 220 game. It's about being able to bowl 2 140s and maybe a 120. And you'll probably beat the guy who bowled 220 and then can't hit 130 again.
No, it's true. But you've got to be consistent.
Did you ever do the Fireside Bowl leagues?
No, I was just talking to one of the guys up there about that a few weeks back because I went up I was going to go in the afternoon, and then I just wasted a lot of time. And then by the time I got there, it was all league play. But I knew him. He owned Town Hall Bowl out in Cicero. And when I was in high school, we bowled there for sectionals, and we practiced there every so often. So I remembered him, and he let me get a couple of games in. And he was telling me that they're going to start the summer leagues. They probably already started.
Yep. But
I haven't bowled at Fireside yet. I have this memory of the 2007 IHSA sectionals or the Catholic League sectionals up here, and they did not oil the lanes. And boy, there were some really good bowlers out there who struggled to get 140.
Yep.
It was a bloodbath. And Ignatius somehow made it to the state finals that year, but it was pretty much like. Fireside's a funny place, but it's a historic place. So I do want to play one of those leagues.
Yeah, it's not a league to be in if you're worried about oil patterns. But I always would look at like the sheets up on the wall to see like what was going on with like the league the AV club people were in, and just like looking at all those, it's always funny to check in on like the media leagues. So I thank you for sharing what's going on in the softball league, because I always think it's funny to see, you know, who's getting their words in and then backing them up on the lanes. But shout out to Fireside Bowl. I don't care that half the time when I bowled in league there, it wouldn't re-rack 10 pins. It's not really my problem. The ceiling tiles stopped falling when they stopped having hardcore shows in 2005. And it's really just not my problem anymore. The guy working the bar is so slow, but you just have to let him be that slow. What are you gonna do? And really, nothing's better than what's his name, man? I can't think of his name. I think it's Ricky, Julio's son that runs it. He's like chilling at the counter, and you know the ball gets stuck, and then he's just in some Jordan slides, just like waddling down the gutter to go get your ball out of there. And it's just like where else would you rather be, man? Like this is what you pay for.
And they made a point, like they bought that old system. I was talking to Julio about that. They bought that old scoring system. He told me where he bought it from too, and I couldn't remember, but it's just a welcome change from the boleros and the cardboard cutout alleys that just have their catering. I know you got to do something to make your ends, but it's like catering to birthday parties and other things like that. Like I had my third birthday party in a bowling alley, but it was a bowling alley that was a lot like Fireside. They just had the bowling birthday party in there.
Yep.
You can do that at a place like Fireside. You don't have to make it so homogenized.
Right.
And that's why I like that place. That's why I like Timber Lanes.
Yeah, I've never been in Timber Lanes. How many?
Diversity, I still like Diversity Bowl, but Diversity's a pretty big house. Not like there's some places that I know back in the day had like 45. I think Arena on 103rd has like 48 or something like that. They've got a lot. But Diversity back in the day on leagues, there'll be Puerto Rican cats in there who would wear one bowling shoe on their left foot and then wear like a Jordan 6 on the right foot because you didn't need it to slide.
Yep.
And they said at a certain point you got to wear bowling shoes on the lanes. I missed that, man, because those cats would beat your brains in. They put up 220s like that, and you were like, "This is doubly embarrassing." Like you're not following the rules. Have you look better than me, and you can bowl.
Have you tried the Dragon Balls at the Diversity Bowl?
Have I tried the what?
The Dragon Balls. They're like spiced meatballs.
I got a new ball. It wasn't.
No. This is from the cafeteria. This is from the concession stand. This is a concession item.
Oh no.
They're called like Dragon Balls or something. And they're just like, I mean, they're horrible. They're just like a grease bomb. And then it like felt like they were like over seasoned, but then for some reason they had like fennel in them. Like it didn't make any sense, right? You know how like the Tony's pizza used to have fennel all over it?
Right.
It was kind of like that. But it was like really spicy. And we were like, we got to get these. This is really funny. The Dragon Balls. We were there for a birthday from other people from Bradley. And I think I had a birthday party there 2 years ago. But anyway, we got the Dragon Balls and they were just a gut bomb. They were horrible. So if you go there and you want to eat, get the pizza or the pot pie is actually not bad there. They got a good pot pie. It's shaped exactly like a football.
The prices went up in general, but I remember when I bowled league that the food was a lot better. Like the food was just a lot better. And it's kind of saddening because I worked there for a day. I was trying to see what it was like. When I was like, if I could work in the bowling alley and bowl for free, I was like, yeah, great. But I realized it wasn't for me after the night. Everybody who worked there was dope, but I realized it wasn't my place to work. But they all said it's like, yeah, the menu, I think just either the quality of ingredients that they were bringing in is just kind of taking a downturn for some reason.
Well, for those types of places, if you have a spot like that has a kitchen that's like secondary to what's going on, it's typically held together by one person. And the bowling alley back home that Adam and I talked about last episode was ran by our friend's mom, and so she like had that menu down. And then she left, and then the menu collapsed, and then she opened her own restaurant in town. But it's like all those things are held together by like one person who's actually cooked. The milkshakes and the burger at the chili bowl were so good. The fries were good too. Like if you can make a good frozen fry, like you deserve to have high status in this country. Like if you can turn Gordon Food Service's food into something that I think about after I eat it, and not in a way that I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. Like, I think you deserve a medal, like a commendation. You know what I mean? Like, we have to celebrate these people. Like, how many meals do you have that just are like, they're just like a chore? We deserve better. I don't know, man. No, it's
true.
We deserve better.
The wrap used to be really fire. The wrap there used to be really, really, really good. And I think I got it again, and it was just kind of okay. I don't know what the deal is.
Man.
It's the luck of the draw. Sometimes things have to change. I don't know exactly what they had to do differently there, but I hope it comes back up. Well, that was a good thing about going to league.
Good eats. Yeah. Well, man, what do you got going on for the rest of your week? What's the rest of your week? What do you got going on into the summer?
Chicago Sky played tonight. They got their home opener against the Mystics, so I'm going out there right after this to cover the game with James, with Steven, with all the other erstwhile media professionals.
Nice. Say hi to
against Sunday.
Say hi to Maggie.
Of course. Yeah, Maggie Hendricks is absolutely great.
Yeah.
Maggie Hendricks is fantastic. They've got another game Sunday, but I have Chicago Union, Ultimate Frisbee team.
Okay.
The American Ultimate Disc League. That's what I was saying. I do PA for the Union.
Oh,
and
okay.
They're looking to rebound after losing their home opener. So I'm excited for that. They got Minnesota at 35th in Michigan on the DePaul, De La Salle campus.
Oh, okay.
So if look it up, Chicago Union, great games, really good, affordable tickets, VIP packages. And
awesome.
I pull out all the stops on PA for that. So I love doing that. And then roller derby is going up to Montreal next Saturday for our first official bout of this season. I'm hype. I'm going to.
That's a long travel.
I'm going to get croque monsieur. We're going to do karaoke. It's going to be fantastic.
Awesome. Hell yeah, man. That's so sick. I forgot to ask, how did you get from announcing derby to coaching derby?
My old team in Peoria, one day somebody said, "Hey, you know a lot about sports. Do you want to coach us?" And I was like, are you absolutely sure? Because our team is all women. I am 23. I was at that time. I was 24 at that time, and I think everybody but one person on the team was older than me. And I was like, I've skated, like I grew up roller skating, but
right.
I've never played the game.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is gonna work. And so they were like, no, yeah. And so I've just been learning on the job since then.
Awesome.
And the lesson I've really learned is that it's not always about the techniques and plays. You need to know what to say in a situation and what to do. But a lot of coaching is just juggling personalities and making sure everybody has what they need.
Yeah.
And that the team chemistry is on point. It's a team sport.
Yeah. Yeah. There is all the cliche of, like, oh, sports teaches people all these lessons and blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, there really is something to be said about like being in a situation, which you are in a lot in your life as you age, where things are not going well and the people that are involved are like too overwhelmed to like take a step back and see what's going on outside of it. And if you can develop a skill set, which is forced upon you by coaching, to be like, no, it's fine. We're not on fire. We're not on fire. And just like cover the smoke coming off of your back and just like keep people calm. And like, when you can do that, that's, I think, one of the most like satisfying things. It's like being able to do like bullet time in like the Matrix, right? There's like all this shit happening and you're just like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. We just need to get the next point and then we can go from there. And it's just like, you're like, holy shit. This is like fucking Zen Buddhism. I'm fucking unlocking something in my brain. So that's cool. That's awesome that like you've been able to do that. And like, honestly, like I wish that was something more people had, like, especially when you get into like the business world, like people are like, this thing is happening and it's melting down and we're losing our mind. And it's just like, well, I can tell you that this doesn't matter. And like we can like step back, like all we can do is like send a couple emails, you know what I mean? It's like the consequences aren't even like if we're going to lose this game if we don't score in the next possession. Like it's it's just like we just have to like email a different work team and they'll deal with it. Like, who cares?
And I try to tell people, like, I want you to be better around life than you are now. Like, I want you to be a better person when you come out of this. And sometimes it's in a game and people are like, hey, we need this now. And I'm like, yo, don't rush me. But I understand that I'm trying to pull myself back to the present. Mm-hmm. But winning is great, but it's always just going to be more important to me. And I think to the players that I've coached, to want to be there for good things for themselves,
yeah,
and the people around them. And that, again, special. It's really, really, really beautiful to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything, this is a lesson of life. Anything elective that you're doing, anything that you do not have to be doing, if the outcomes of like winning and things like that are making it so that you don't want to be doing it, you've got to want to do the things you're doing with your free time. Like that's the whole point of this fucking podcast is like, if you're going to spend hours and hours and hours of your life doing stuff, you should try to like make it nice for yourself and others. You owe
Exactly.
yourself that before you owe everybody else that. But I mean, you owe other people that too. Like, you know what I mean? Like we said, like if you're going to bowling league and you can't bowl and you're having a bad time, then just like it's better for you to just quit than show up every week and piss everybody off.
Yeah, and it's like especially if it's either do a rec league if you really want to bowl so you can get better, or just do something that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Like don't do something that sucks just because you feel obligated. There's no point in that.
No, there's plenty of there's better things to suck at. Well, man, it's been good to have you. So good to catch up. I can't wait to have you over in the yard. Adrian can't wait to piece together your high school crew with the Bradley crew. I probably will see you at wrestling. I think the next freelance show is the 9th. June 9th is the next freelance show. It is out at Irving Hall now. I think there's some renovations going on at the auditorium. So
okay.
So it'll be out there. But yeah, let me know if you want to go to wrestling. Anything you got to say before you go?
Hey, White Sox, pick it up, make us really care again. That would be great.
Man.
Otherwise, to everybody out there who does watch this, do yourself a favor and go south of 35th Street to hang.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that you might miss out on.
That's right. Where are you going to be this weekend? Where are they going to find you?
I was going to say all over the place. I'm at a Memorial Day barbecue. Sheffield Wednesday's playing the League One final, playoffs final on Monday, so I'm going to be posted up, I think, at AJ Hudson's on Ashland, and then Memorial Day barbecue. And then Saturday, like I said before, it's be out of the house. Going to be out of the house.
Yeah. Everton either will or won't be relegated on Sunday.
Fingers crossed that they stay up, because that was a really bad start to the season.
Yeah. I was losing my mind watching Newcastle just not score the other night. It was actually fairly incredible that they could not score with what they had going on. But anyway, I want to die. So up the Toffees. We'll see you soon, everybody. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, man.